In video 54 of this Microsoft project playlist, we showed you how you can put together a budget cost for your project. What we didn't show was how we can also use cost-related information to break down a feasible budget at the task level. And we'll also show you what the differences are between costs and actual costs and how this can help us keep our project budgets on track. Let's check it out. Now, to begin with, it's important to understand the difference between cost and actual cost. So to access those actual costs, you can go to the column and select actual costs. And you can see there that all of the tasks shown there are 0. This is because there's been no progress so far on this project. However, if you were to select some tasks and mark them as complete, you can see that the cost has translated to the actual cost because it's actually been completed. However, there's something very important that you do need to be mindful of. In situations where you have resources that are both people and, shall we say, one-off costs or miscellaneous resources like we have here with council fees, there is something extra that you'll need to do, because when you mark this off as complete, you'll see that the council fees, which is $200, has not been translated to the actual costs. So how do you get this, if it has been paid, to translate to actual costs? Well, you're going to have to go to your task usage view. So scroll down to the Gantt chart pull down menu there, select task usage, and you'll notice that the tasks showing here have its resources separated into separate line items. So you're going to have to double click the council fees, and here is where the work complete can be adjusted. So let's just assume that the fee has been paid, which would be 100% complete. Go OK, and then go back to your Gantt chart. There you can see that that transaction has been accounted for under the actual costs. So a very important point in order to keep track of actual costs. Now, as we might be aware, the budget cost does not have allowance to break down into each of the individual tasks. So in this method, we are going to apply a new cost column that's going to be labeled as allowance, which will add up to that $35,000 to effectively do an allowance against each of these tasks. Then we're going to apply a balance column, which will be our task allowance subtracted by the actual costs to obtain the balance that we're seeking. Now, both of these columns are going to be custom views, and they're both going to be cost columns. So we are going to scroll down and select cost 5, which hasn't been used, and we're going to right click on this and put together some custom field settings. Now, to do this, we're going to rename this first of all to task allowance. And then the next thing we're going to do is ask this task to actually sum up into the summary rows so that we can do some proper comparison with the budget cost. So we're going to roll up and select sum. We want it to sum up the values that we put in the task allowance. Okay, so that's translated. So what we can do here is we can now apply a task allowance or a budget allowance that adds up to $35,000, which is our budget cost, and that is nicely divided into each of the tasks piece by piece. So I'll go through and do that now. Now I've gone through and applied a task allowance against each of these individual tasks, and you can see the total adds up to $35,000. And as you go through, you can see that some are the same as what the original costs are. Some of these tasks have been rounded up to form an allowable budget that we can aim for in order to keep the overall budget in check. Now, the next column we're going to choose is another cost column. This is going to demonstrate the balance, which is the task allowance subtracted by the actual cost. So let's form that together. So we go and scroll down. We're going to select a cost column that hasn't been used yet, which is cost 6. And we're going to right click on this and actually put together a formula. So let's go and do that. So we're going to put together a formula. We're going to rename this as balance. We're going to put together a formula, and this is the standard message which shows we're going to be using a formula. Click on the formula. Now we want this balance to equal field, which is going to be task allowance So we go to cost, we go to custom cost, and there we can see task allowance. And we want that to be subtracted by minus the actual cost. So we select the field, cost, actual cost. We go OK. And we can click OK to this standard box. Now we also want it to roll up and to sum up, which is important. Then we go OK. Now we have a lot more cost related information for this project. We now have the individual tasks which add up to the budget cost, but we also have information on how each of these individual tasks have performed against each of the parts that comprise the budget. So for example, imagine if we had one of these tasks that were pushed out say another 5 days, out to 10 days. Well, the cost of that increases, and when that task is marked as complete, well, we see that that's added onto the actual costs, but notice also it gives us a deficit on the balance for that individual task. So in this scenario, while the cost is still within budget, we've identified now that that task has contributed to eating into the project budget. And as you go on and start to mark off and complete tasks, you can start to form a better picture as to which of the tasks have either helped or hindered the budget. And this could be of great value to us project managers to get in there and make adjustments to either resources or the task allowances in order to put together a fair and feasible budget as the project progresses through its various tasks. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe or leave a comment, and we'll catch you in the next video.